Welcome to the class. The last lecture, you might recollect, was on recent developments in petroleum agreements. And today is the fourth part of this semester. I said there are four parts to it. The first one being the definitions and concepts. The second part talked about the types of agreements. The third part, we talked about legislative and policy issues, and ending part three with how do you know you have a good agreement. We went through that list. You were sent a copy of that, I believe. And even if you're not, you heard me, you can make your own notes, but probably it was sent. And then we move on to the final and the last part, is part four, an interesting part, a useful part, and that is about negotiations. So we are in good shape. And we have timed this course very nicely. I think we have not rushed through any part. And thankfully, we are finishing just in appropriate time. But there will be, after the exam, you know the exam is coming, and a class after that, which will be, I believe, the April the 6th. So don't miss that class, please. On April the 6th, there will be a class. That'll be the week after the exam. So don't imagine and think for a moment that since you've appeared in the exam, it's all over. It's not over. The other thing is by now, or a couple of days, you would receive through John, which I've really put together, the instructions about the exam. Another 2 or 3 days. Maybe he's already sent it to you. I don't know. And so they make it very clear what is expected of the students, how to conduct this exam themselves. And when we send you the exam on the Friday, whichever date it is, and we will probably repeat some of these things again. Don't guarantee it. You can keep the instructions in front of you in case you fear you might forget them. And they will probably repeat some of those again so that you have them in front of you. And so you won't worry about it. You should not worry about it. It's the same procedure that was conducted and has been done for the last 2 spring semesters. This is the 3rd spring semester that I'm teaching online for reasons you know, okay? And what else can I say? So in the last 2 spring semesters, everything went very well. Not a single question was raised, and I was delighted. Talk about raising a question. I'm particularly happy that throughout the semester, there were not many questions that were raised. That gives me the impression, I hope, and I'm correct, that everything that I spoke in this and finance class was evident and very clear. That's a good feeling to any person who is teaching. That if it was confusing, I probably would have heard from somebody or the other in this or the other class, okay? So that's a good feeling. And I hope, and there'll be other occasions that I might teach again the next spring semester. No guarantee, don't count on it. I'm not promising anything, but if all goes well, if I do, and you're taking the agreements class, that will be the finance class. And if you like this and you think you benefited, you're welcome to take that class. You know me, you know my the way I teach and all the rest. Having said that, as you see behind me, I'm Paul. This was yesterday's notes. I have to take it down. No, don't worry about it. Take it out. So I hope now it's clear we're talking negotiations, okay? That's today's lecture. As far as I know, that most of the business schools around the country, not all, I can't speak for everyone, have a semester, full semester course on negotiations. While we have today's lecture, it may overflow into next lecture. I don't think so, it might. That'll be the last lecture of the semester if it goes that far. And we have 1 hour, 2 hours maybe to wrap up the subject, which business schools take full semester. As you might have realized by now, I can and I do and I have compressed a lot of knowledge in a very short time, okay? And all this in a very short time, the same way, and I would compress negotiation on we taught over the whole semester in the business school in a couple of hours, but does not mean the details would be the same as you were attending a course on negotiations in the business school. Of course, there has to be some compromise on details, and I choose and pick and choose the one that I think are important details that you have to know and focus on that. And so I eliminate all the unnecessary details and make it a 2 hour, 2.5 hour, 1.5 hour lecture. And hope nothing will be missed in the process. And then over the period of time, several times I've handed to you the attachments through the semester when I thought it was necessary. And this attachment did help me proceed faster, okay? I can draw on all of those myself on the board with a concession and a PSA cash flows, remember? Economic evaluation, why royalty should be reduced at the end of the project. All those, I could have done it on the board, one column at a time, but that would have been just total useless waste of your time. So I photocopied the cash flow on a concession, one on a PSA, sent it to you, and in the next minute, I'm ready to talk about it. Save us a couple of hours right there. So I squeeze a lot of information in short time, and I like to do that. Why waste time? Okay, your time is precious, and so is mine. Having said that, let's get to the point now. The point being to talk about negotiations. This lecture is all about impressions, about opinions, my opinion and your opinion, mine versus yours, does not mean mine is right and yours is wrong. No, 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 no. It's just a subjective discussion about how one should conduct negotiation. You may have a better idea. So don't assume that what I'm saying, this is how we should proceed in the room and how should we shake the hand of the other side. No, that is a personal judgment, and we're not going to get into that, okay? And so it's not a right or wrong, plus or minus. It's not quantitative. It's just a feeling, but that's how I think I would conduct the negotiations if I were you. So I'm not going to test you whether when I said this, it was right or wrong, okay? So relax, please, but relax to only up to the point you benefit and take some notes along the way. All right. Why do we need to negotiate is a logical question. I've written the reasons. And how do we negotiate? Well, there are many reasons we negotiate, reasons for negotiation, many of them are to resolve a conflict. Or in other words, if there is a difference of opinion, you negotiate, you go back and forth in your discussion and arguments to resolve some differences. You can call them differences or you can call them a conflict, same thing. Okay. And to get others to look at your point of view. That's called to persuade others. That's an English word called persuade others to your point of view, to get them to look at whatever you're discussing from the way you're looking at it from your point of view, okay? That's another reason to negotiate. And so here it says, to resolve a conflict, you can read it. Or you say, some like to conduct their negotiation in a very formal setting, Others might like to do it in a very informal setting. You can do formal, you can define it yourself. Informal, you can define it yourself. There's no clear definition of what is a formal, what is an informal setting. There are a lot of ways to define formal or informal or conduct formal or informal. That's your choice, okay? And we may later go into some of these questions again, okay? Sometimes it's a cultural thing. We can talk about cultural things also, because culture's influence from what background the negotiator is coming from has a major impact on how the negotiations are conducted. And we have a Latin culture, we have an Arab culture, we have a Chinese culture, we have all kinds of Anglo culture, we have Indian culture, Bangladeshi culture, oh God knows, Vietnamese culture, all kinds of, thank heavens. We have many kinds of, it makes for a very, very interesting world. If every culture was the same, this would be a very, very boring world, and I don't think I want to be in a boring world. So I'm not in judgment of any culture. That is not the purpose, and I don't believe anybody has the right to judge another's culture is right or wrong. Is the way they were brought up, the way they do the business, the way they conduct the interaction with other human beings. That's a cultural background, okay? So do not ever be in judgment of anybody's culture, never. That's the first rule. Treat them with respect, and we expect them to treat us in reciprocity and return in respect, okay? So I'm not here going to be, well, if you do this, it's wrong, or this, according to the culture, this is how they do things, okay? And that's fine with me. If that's the way to do it, that's fine with me, okay? Some negotiations end up being competitive. There are two ways to negotiate, a competitive or a collaborative, right? The word collaborative. The word competitive is to compete with each other. The word collaborative means to work together, collaborate. It's an English word, to work together. Let's talk about what is a collaborative, what is, competitive. The way I look at it, competitive negotiation is like witnessing a boxing match or conducting yourself in a boxing match. You know boxing? A question is, have you ever seen a boxing match, maybe on TV? The answer I hear is, yes, you have. Everybody's seen a boxing match. The next question is, it's only going to be very personal now, my impression of a boxing match. I've never attended one. I've seen them on television. In any boxing match, is there a winner and a loser? One boxer is a winner, the other one is a loser. I can hear you say, yeah, there is a winner and a loser at the back in the boxing match. Well, I humbly disagree. I do not and have not seen a boxing match with a winner and a loser. You only see two persons who are boxing. At the end of the match, both persons having blood coming out their nose and the eyes, all over their face, there's blood, ugly looking blood. The swollen faces, fellow has been beating them on the head and the face and the ears and the nose and the lips, everywhere, swollen. He doesn't look anything like the person who got up in the morning that day. Bruised. That's what I see. Both sides, both boxers. How can I say one is a winner? If you got bruises and blood coming out, you don't look like a winner to me, do you? Maybe, I know, you might think he's a winner. I don't think so. Winner should not have bleeding lips. So both are losers, if you ask me. If you look, put it in the context of petroleum negotiations. You don't want, now talking petroleum, to be like a boxing match where you're hitting the other guy. You have to live with this for 30 years. Boxing match is probably 2 minutes. You go one way, the guy boxer goes the other way. This, remember, is a marriage between the two sides, maybe the government and the company. For 30 years, you're going to start with a boxing attitude of a boxing match? I hope not. But regrettably, sadly, this is how many boxing matches, negotiations end up. I'm of the second opinion. It's a marriage. Remember the word marriage, but I spoke the very first day of my lectures. You don't go around hitting your wife or a wife hitting your husband. No, that's like a marriage and going to hell, if you ask me. You don't bruise your spouse. I rather have this marriage between the government and the company negotiate in a collaborative way. You know, the word collaborative, you can write that down if you like. Work together. You're partners for 30 years in the project so that both understand each other's needs, collaborate, work together. Same thing, marriage. Marriage is only work when both the spouses are working together for some common purpose. Many times it's the children that come to play. And there are other reasons they can stay together. Maybe the love and all the good stuff that goes with marriage. Remember that, please. Do not make next time ever you have a chance to negotiate. Do not let the process of negotiation be a boxing match. Work together, because again, I repeat for the nth time, this is a 30-year marriage. As long as there is a contract, you have a marriage going. You don't want this contract, 30-year contract, to end up in a divorce. Okay. Now, having said that, let us start to bring a focus into this conversation. And that is that I'm thinking, where do I start? That's a struggle for me at this time. Where should I start this lecture? I said, well, one way is to look at the personalities of the negotiators. What kind of personalities do they have? What should you look for in the opposing side's personality? Qualities of the other side negotiator. Characteristics, personality, traits, T-R-A-I-T-S, traits, and the other side's negotiator. Traits meaning characteristic. You know, I'm struggling to give you many words. Qualities, same as characteristics. So let us say, what if you can decipher, if you can find out, if you can determine, I've given you 3 words. What are the characteristics of the other fellow's negotiator, then you can approach him given his traits, his characteristics. Use the word characteristics and traits synonymous, they are identical. Broadly speaking, we hear researchers have come up with the idea that 2 kinds of traitors, there are 2 kinds of traits, T-R-A-I-T-S, in human beings. And negotiators are human beings, in negotiators. The type A negotiator, they say you type A human being or type B negotiator. It does not mean that one day God decided, today we're going to make every human being going down to earth type A. Tomorrow we'll make everything type B. That's not what it means. It means, well, some individuals, some people have more characteristics that lend themselves closer to type A type. The others are closer to the traits that are of type B. Not that one is all 100% A, the other one is all 100% B. It does not happen. That's not how God intended it to be, and that's not what we see anywhere in the world. There's a combination, one are predominantly in the A category, the predominant in the B category. That doesn't mean everything in the A is the X type and everything be the Y. No, no, no. There's a combination, but mostly, predominantly means largely A and largely B type. So, having said that, look up the attachment 1 when you're listening to the lecture. Right away, you'll see, look how much information I've put together in just one sheet of paper called the attachment, concentrating the lecture in a very, very short time. That's just the start. Let's read it from the top. Traits of negotiators. Remember I said some are predominantly A, the other ones are predominantly B. Traits. And if you begin to appreciate and determine this fellow on the other side is A, this fellow on the other side is B, you can move your negotiation style accordingly, given the temperament of the opposing side's negotiator. So and this could influence the negotiation, of course. It will, definitely it will. So if you start reading from the top with me, it says trait, left column. In the middle, it says type A negotiator, and then it says type B negotiator. In other words, what are the characteristics you find in type A and in type B? And what are the traits, what are the characteristics you should look at? What characteristics does type A have? You begin to appreciate when I start giving you 1 or 2 examples, okay? What kind of characteristics does type B have, or trait? Let's start with the first one, and you'll understand clearly when I'm finished with the 1 or 2 examples here. Goal. You see the goal on the left column? A typical type A negotiator, his goal is to get what? A signed contract. I'll explain. Type B negotiator, his goal is to develop a good relationship with the other side. Well, if you're type A, your goal is to have a signed contract. You can wave it to your boss. You can go home and tell your boss, here it is, Mr. Boss, I've got a contract. Look, the signatures are here. That's what he's looking for. No, type B is not here. Ultimate goal is not to have a signed contract. His goal is through the negotiation process, not to end up with a signed contract as much as to determine what kind of a relationship can we have with this other side? What is the nature of a relationship with the other side? You can see, so one's goal is to have a contract. The other one says, well, contract can wait. Let's see if we won't even have a long-term arrangement agreement with them based on their goal being that to have a relationship. I'm more the relationship. If you ask me, I personally, I can say I'm more the relationship type. I've talked about it, God knows how many times about, don't disturb me, sir. It takes a long time to have a relationship, and you one wrong step and that is ruined forever. Don't do that, please. Especially when there's a customer and a shopkeeper's relationship. Attitude in negotiations. I'm talking petroleum negotiations. Type A negotiator, win and lose. He always wants to be the winner. I'm more the type B, negotiator. B, win, win. Remember? Don't forget, please. Marriage. You don't want the spouse to be loser. You're the winner. Oh, I won. My wife lost, my husband lost. You both need to come out ahead. There's no competition here. You're working for a common thing. I can be a common, living happily, traveling together, and of course having wonderful children. I hope you understand what I'm explaining all this. Personal style. Type A, informal style of interaction. Type B, formal style of interaction. You can place yourself whichever way you want to. I'll tell you clearly where I sit. Does not make me right, or it does not make me wrong, and vice versa for you, the same. Always when this is the time in the class, I say, well, if there's a German or there's a Latin guy, there's a Chinese fellow, there's a, Arab fellow, I say, hey, what kind of style interaction do the Germans have? Some will say, well, formal. The other will say, no, informal. What about those Indian guys? Oh, they're formal. They're American formal. I'll give you an example. I've lived here 50 years, but I grew up somewhere else in the early few years of my life. In the United States, it's very informal style. I'll give you an example. I grew up being very formal. Have you noticed? Have you seen me without a coat and if you can't see and a tie for all my lectures? No. Do I feel good about tying my neck with this tie? No. I believe, not right or wrong, a professor should reflect by his demeanor, by his behavior, to be respected. Is expected. He has to set an example. Now that's what the others say, who cares whether you're wearing a tie or not? Your job is to provide the knowledge. I say, yeah, knowledge I do, but this is a side benefit I have to inculcate, promote with the young students in my class. To get respect, you have to respect yourself. No, there's nothing wrong with coming around here with a t-shirt. There is nothing wrong. In fact, I was thinking maybe in the last class, I'll show you my t-shirt also, and not put up this tie business, just to give you the other side of me. But that'll be more in the winding down stage. Don't expect that. If I might not, I might think of that. So how do we handle that in the United States? I've felt bad sometimes. Well, you introduce somebody, you say, well, this gentleman in America, his name is Robert Taylor. The other fellow says, hey, Bob. No, sir, my name is Robert. It's not Bob. Well, okay, another one could be William Musk. Elon Musk, everybody talks about. William Musk. Hey, not William. Hey, Bill. No, sir, my name is William, not Bill. We jump suddenly to that informal approach to everybody becomes from Richard, you become Dick, from Richard, from William, you become Bill, from and so on. Okay. Robert, you become Bob. Other countries, they will be upset. And if they're upset, they're not going to negotiate in good terms with you. Is it hidden? Is it subtle? Is it under the skin? Yes. They're not going, hey, why did you call me Bob? My name is... No. Nobody does that, but down underneath, that begins to take shape. Even now, you can count 3 persons, even amongst my friends, who call me Christian. Nobody dare do it. Even my close friends, they still call me Mr. Man. Even when I was in college here at the university, the gentleman, he shared the apartment with me. He had 1 bedroom, I had the other. We were both students. Remarkable young man, and I loved him. As bright as you can imagine. Even his name was Robert Taylor. Mine is Christian Malik. He never called me Christian, even at that age. He called me Mr. Malik. Can you imagine a student calling another one, even their roommate, Mr. Malik? In fact, only last week, somebody who knew me from 50 days, 50 years was joking with me. Even last week, by chance, he said, remember Robert Taylor used to call me, he called you Mr. Malik? I said, yeah, I remember. I don't know why. He said, well, I can call everybody by their first name, but this gentleman, well, I was not a gentleman, I was a young man. I can't. I just have to address him with Mr. Was it right? Was it wrong? No, it's just the way you conduct yourself. It's a cultural thing. I'm not here in judgment whether Christian is the right or Mr. Malik is right. I'm not here professing one is good or bad, but we have to recognize. I go to a country, the moment say, hey, Christian, halfway I'll probably walk out, hey, look here, man. We're not, sometimes people have said to me, call us by, they say, you know what? Call me by my first name. People have said when I get introduced, you can call me, it's a Richard Taylor or something. No, Robert Taylor. He might say, hey, call me Robert. I never do. I say, I'm sorry, sir, I can't. I wouldn't. I can call you Mr. Taylor, but not Bob. Because that is bringing you too close. Because if I call you Bob, you're going to call me Christian. No, that is a special level for few that I allow them to talk to me in that level because we've been buddies. We grew up together when we were 10 years old. You can then, that is acceptable when you grew up together and you're still wiping your nose together when we didn't know who, the left from the right hand. You know, when you grow up, you know, you fight and you match up. Even those are the relationship young men and young value them the most. The unique relationship. I always remark, there is no shortcut to a relationship. It takes 40 years to develop a 40-year relationship. It takes 30 years to develop a 30-year relationship. It takes 20 years to develop a 20-year. I cannot have a 20-year relationship in 5 days or 5 weeks or 1 year or 2 years. It takes 20 years, same amount of time. So when you're walking away from a relationship that took you 40 years, for some petty difference with your friend who's been your friend, please think twice, because at 40 years under the bridge, water is gone. Both are losers. The memories, what does a relationship mean? It is the memories, folks. The 20 years memories you had with that person are gone. I can't lose those memories. Those are precious. We live with memories and for memories. Remember that. As you can see, today's lecture is a little different. It's the human aspect I'm talking about, which is more important than any knowledge you can get from the books. Remember that. Communication, type A is direct, and type B is indirect. Wow, careful there. Yeah, good organized as well. We are very direct here. If you say no, you mean no, no means no, don't ask me too much. No is a no, is a no, is a no, done. In another culture, I don't want to be naming cultures, it would not sound nice. The person wants to say no, but he will never say no. There's a cultural thing. He will, this, like, look at my shoulder. This means to him, no. The American guy, hey, look here, man, make up your mind. What are you shaking? Say no if you don't like it, just say no. No, but that cultural, that's deep in his psyche. That is very deep in his psyche. He cannot, will not say no because he never brought him to say direct confrontation. He just, that means no to him. I'll give you another example. If I do not like, if one person makes a proposal to the other person and the other person does not like it, he'll say, no, I don't like it. Case closed. But let me take scenario 2. One person makes a proposal to the other person and the other person does not like it. He will not say, don't know. He will never say no. In the second case, he'll say, I'll think about it. Think about it, 90% means forget it. I don't like it. I don't want to talk about it. No. But it's a cultural inhibition. Inhibition? They grew up when they were children that way. Is it right or wrong? It's not my business. Nor is it your business to stand in judgment. Okay, remember that, please. Time sensitivity. Type A, high. Type B, low time sensitivity. Personally, I'm extremely beyond imagination time sensitive. Anybody coming into my house is a guest or not a guest, coming 5 minutes late, I have the biggest frown on my head, and he knows it, that there's something is done, 5 minutes is not acceptable. I may not even let him in the house. I say, look, man, you're wasting my time. You're supposed to come at 7:05 is not the time when I was expecting you. Unless you have a very good reason, which I might even be willing to let him talk about it. And hardly ever, I don't remember, being late to somebody's house for an appointment. In fact, I'm prone to go there 10 minutes early and I drive around the block of the house, till it's exactly on time. I go there early and right on the dot and ring the bell. My friends have known me. They said, look here, man, don't call this fellow at a certain time unless you make sure you're ready to receive him. You're dressed up and the tie is already tied around the neck and you're ready. At the moment the ring bell, 7 o'clock, it will ring and you better be ready. Am I right? Wrong? No, it's not a right or wrong. I'm just opening your mind because we were used to certain ways. I'm used to, and I think everybody's used to that way. But when you're dealing with the other side, we have to begin to appreciate what are we talking about and what are we talking about. Emotionalism. Type A is high, type B is low. Sentimental. I like to believe that's my belief. Everybody has emotions. We're not made of rock, we're not made of stone. We have emotions. It's a human quality. God put it in us. It's a human quality to have emotions. Only the rock does not have emotions. Why am I talking about high and low? For example, I was lecturing in the Far East. In one culture, I will not name that place because half of the class is from there probably. And nothing wrong. I'm not saying anything wrong about that. But I'm giving you an extreme example. And a lot of folks there, these are not young students, they're all grown up men, children and all. And I asked them, I say, in your culture, are you emotional? And all of them said, no. I said, I didn't think you would say no. Are you made out of rock? No. They said, no, they were not emotional. You know what I said? Bluntly, bang, they were not expressing. I said, if your mother dies, will you cry? I just said it. Yes, we will. The person closest to me in my life is my mother, and she cries. She dies, how can I not cry? He said, oh yeah, we'll cry. I said, that's what I mean. You have emotions, but in your culture, you're not prone to display it. It's a cultural thing. But emotions there are. Some cultures, some display it. I know. So you'll watch the Olympics. You'll see it. The gymnasts, when there's a pedal bar, when the young ladies, like 12-year-old little girls, they jump around the bar and they do, and the gymnastics on it, oh, they're fantastic. They do wonderful, miraculous thing. And when they come off the two beams, and they go like this, let's say they were Japanese, and they're number one gold medalist, they go to the coach. After that, they're supposed to go to the coach. And guess what? I've seen it all. They're number one. They're number one in the world. This little girl, I'm talking about culture. And the young girl goes to the coach and she bows like this. And the coach bows. That's it. No touching, no hugging. That's it. There's another culture. I'll name it. What the heck? Why not? I may be wrong. They're in the class, but that's the way I look at it. The Latin culture. If there were similar situation, and there was a young Latin girl who's jumping on the bars, flipping, and she's number one in the world, the gold medal, and she goes to her coach like that. And of course, there's no bowing for the Latin girl. The coach will run up 50 feet to meet her halfway and hug her. Oh, hug her, she'll hug her. Oh, hug her, kiss her, kiss her. That's their way to show their emotions. Yep. One more time. I'm not judging anybody. Please don't make me say that again and again. Now, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? I'm nobody to judge. Nor should you judge. I'm just telling you the world is so interesting. It's for the fun of lecture, because just highlighting some. I've traveled far and wide. I've said it, God knows, 100 times. And I deal with them all the time. And I move from Arab culture to the Chinese culture to the Latin culture in one series of lecture. I'm one country, then the next week another country, and each other. And do you think I'm going to behave similarly between the Arab culture, where I'm lecturing in let's say, Abu Dhabi, or Egypt, where I go up regularly, versus from China? No, my whole demeanor, demeanor of lecturing changes, a better change. I can write a book on that, how I change. What are the differences between this and that culture? Nothing wrong with one or the other. Remember that. Agreement form. I'm talking about petroleum agreement. In type A negotiator, the agreement form is specific. In type B negotiator, likes it to be more general. If you ask me, I'm general. That's it. Right, wrong, you judge. General meaning what? Remember, goal, relationship. When I'm negotiating, I'm meeting the other side for a day or two or three or four or five, interacting with them, seeing if I can develop a good relationship. And so if I determine that, yes, these people are worthy of my relationship and vice versa, that I will write maybe 2 pages agreement. That's it. We are meeting here, and we will abide by the terms here, and the terms I hopefully be satisfactory. And if there's a difficulty in the future, conflict of in the interpretation of it, then we'll settle it at that time. We won't worry about it now. If there is a problem in the future, we'll settle it. And because we have determined, we are basing our agreement under a strong relationship, we will not have any problem. I don't think we will, because our agreement is based on a relationship, and we will solve any problem if it arises. No, I'm that kind. The other kind is agreement form is specific. That's more the American kind. Agreement form general, 2 pages agreement. Specific, this thick, 500-page agreement. Why? It's more the American. Because in negotiations, one side, Americans say, well, if the price of oil, no, they're just negotiating, they're just discussing, nothing has been signed. So one side, in typical Americans say, well, what will we do if the price of oil drops? So they'll sit down for 2 days and discuss. what to do and write it down, 20 pages, if the price of oil drops. The next fellow said, well, okay, 20 pages. What will we do if the price of oil goes up? Okay, another a week, negotiate. Another 20 pages, write them down. What will we do if the operating costs go up? Also negotiate another 2 weeks, come up with this answer, 20 pages, write that down, and so on. How many what if scenarios can you imagine? Unlimited. For every what if scenario you can imagine, no limit to it, you're looking for what? A solution now. And putting it in writing now, that scenario may never happen and probably will not happen, but you're putting that trust, you're depending on that agreement, what's written. So if the price falls or goes up, you say, hey, look here. If it does, it doesn't. If it does, nothing goes. If it falls, then you say, hey, let's open the agreement. What did we write 5 years ago? If the price falls, what will we do? This, okay, we'll do that. How many pages can you write up on your imagination? 500 pages. Take you 2 years to negotiate. Out of the 200, 500 what if scenario thing that you think might have, only maybe 5 may happen or even 5 may not happen, but you're relying on your agreement to look it up. What form of specific, everything specific. I said, well, come on now. And if we can get along, nothing will bother us. We'll settle it if it happens. Someone said, no, we have to think about it now. I'm not that type. Agreement form, specific or general. The agreement form is specific or general. The type A says it's no, I take my apologies, forgive me, please. Agreement building form I've covered. Agreement building is bottom up or top down. The opposite. Bottom up or top down. That shows you the difference. In the bottom up agreement, which is type A, this is what happens. The two sides meet with one thing to discuss. When they agree, bottom. Then they get to the next step, next point. They agree, they go to the next point. When they agree, so they're going what? Bottom, up. The other way to do it is to top down. That's what you walk, or you or whoever it is, in type B type, walk in with 20 points they want to discuss about agreements. The other one, you start with 1 and go to 2 and 3. Here you go with 20. So when you put forth your number 20, we want this. The other side, hey, get out. We don't accept. Cut it out. The next, number 19, we want this also. No, cut it out. Top down. Number 18, cut it out. So from the top, they go with a laundry list of how many things they want. And slowly after discussion, they left with only 3 of them maybe, which is kept to do both sides. It's a style. It's up to you. I'm not saying which one should you adopt. I'm not here saying this is the right, wrong, you do this. No, not at all. I've not said it, will not say it. But mind you, open your mind, team organization. Negotiations are not normally done by one person. They're generally done by 2, 3, 4 people on this side, 3, 4 people on the other side. And they're a team on this and a 3, 4, well, they may, I'm not saying everybody, they may have a lawyer and maybe he's the leader, not always. They may have an accountant in the team in case there are questions about accounting. They may have a geologist in the team because there might be a question about geologist. They may have a tax guy in the team. There might have been a question about taxes. So typically these 3 or 4 disciplines are in the team to address certain questions related to the field. And the other side will have their own team with one fellow heading it. In the introduction, I forgot to mention that early on, in the introduction, when the 2 teams meet, it is generally a good idea for the leader of the team to introduce the other 3 or 4 members of the team. This is John so-and-so. He's a tax man in our government. So we have included him in case there's a tax-related question. And I'm an attorney. I don't know much about taxes. So if you have a tax question, Mr. John, whatever his name, John, he will be the one who will handle it. I cannot. He's qualified to do it. So now you know that what is the role of the individual members, professional background of individual members and the team. So they have a role. When will they speak? Okay. There's nothing they have to say. They'll just stay quiet throughout the negotiation process. Everybody doesn't have to speak. It's only when they have something to talk about regarding their involvement in the process. I call it team organization is one leader consensus. And one leader, although I don't know if I've ever seen a movie, but I've heard of a great actor named John Wayne. You probably heard of it, probably seen it. I've not. I know. I've seen his picture. He's a macho-looking guy. He's in charge. He's the boss. That's my impression from what I hear from here, there, and yonder. He's the man. John Wayne, a macho-looking guy, big, broad shoulders. I don't know. I'm trying to picture him. I haven't seen it. I've seen a picture or 2 of his photograph. So he is in charge. So in America, in every here, I'm not the John Wayne type in negotiation. In every in the American team, what you will have this fellow. One fellow is the leader. He will project from his habit, from his demeanor, from his attitude. He is in charge. He is the John Wayne. The other 3 fellows with me in the team are just here to carry my bags. That would be not a good idea. I call it the John Wayne style of negotiation. Take it whatever it's worth. The other way, and I will name the country, Chinese. No. Just the opposite. There's no Mr. John Wayne there. Maybe one might be heading it, but he's not a macho guy, Now, in that case, they get the opinion of all 4 members all of them. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And then they come up with a consensus. Of course, there's a problem with that. If you're going to ask for everybody's opinion, the whole negotiation process moves rather slowly, obviously. That's the drawback. So that is where negotiator B is the consensus builder, bring everybody together. But the A says, wow, I'm the man, talk to me, the rest only my bodyguards, carry my bags. Lastly, the trait of risk-taking. In some cultures, or not even, some individuals take risk and others do not. There's nothing wrong with it. Some are like daredevils, others are not. Have you heard of a fellow named Evel Knievel? My God, it looks like he took so much risk, like a crazy man. Get on a motorbike and jump over 30 cars from this end to the other. He said, I'll cross the Grand Canyon. Oh man, Cross the trail. What's wrong with you, man? But that's the way I look at it. But he was a daredevil. Everybody in America heard of it, and they will show it on TV. I've seen him do all that jumping business. Amazing risk taker. Amazing. So some people trade type, they like to take risk. Some like to jump off a parachute. I don't know if I'm that way. The others don't like to take a risk as much. Yeah, I didn't do it as much. There's always some risk in life. Every time I get in the car, I know the 40,000 people who got in the car before I did died in the accident. 200,000 got maimed, injured in the accident every year. But that's to me a risk that I can't help but avoid. And statistically is in my favor. So I take, but some, they're just risk takers. So I hope that this short lecture on the traits of negotiators will help you in your future negotiations if you happen to be in one of the settings, okay? Having said that, let me take you to, here's a thick notes from negotiator, like, I don't know if I'm going to flash it, 30, where do I go? There are so many, 30 pages of notes on practical approach to negotiations, okay? Learn from those who actually have done negotiations all their lives for oil companies. I happen to be friends of them. I happen to have discussed it with them. I happen to have listened to the lectures. And I happen to put some of those points that they brought up in conversation, very useful, very practical, into today's lecture. So let us take our customary 13-minute break. That's a logical time to do that. And then we'll start with just what I said, introduce you to the practicality, the real practical side of negotiation, okay? Should you show this? Should you be notional? Should you bang the table with your fist? Those kind of things, the real life. Should you touch on important points first or at the end of the day? Real life, not textbook, real life practical. So meet me in 12 minutes. Did I say it? I'll give you another minute. 13 minutes, I'll be here, okay? Thank you. How about that? Let me take this off, please. Okay, let us begin, please. We're going to talk about real practical negotiation ideas. And I just thought of digressing a little bit and tell you simply few words. Please, I think, if I'm correct, this probably is my last lecture before you get to give the exam. And I wanted to remind you that please do the best you can in your exam. It's going to be a straightforward exam, number one. What does that mean? There are no tricky questions. I must say, can you explain this? Or can you define this? Straightforward, very straightforward. I don't believe in tricky questions. If I can feel that the student is struggling, trying to convey the answer, I give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm in favor of the student, okay? But do try, please, okay? Because without you trying, I would not know whether you know anything or not. If you write some, excuse me, I'll reach into your mind. I maybe say, well, I'll really try to reach into the mind. I'll compensate you for the language English if you're any difficult in expressing in English because of the nature where you come from, overseas countries. Don't worry about it. I've dealt with students like yourself for decades. I can see where the struggle is with the language. Don't worry, I can understand where you're coming from. So again, all that I'm trying to say is not to worry. Look at the notes, listen to my lectures, which is not very much. And it's closed book. You can't open it. I hope you won't open my lectures either. I trust you will not. And do the best you can. And hopefully you should be quite pleased with the results. Okay, that's all I can say. So let's continue now with some practical aspects of negotiation. Many a time a book is written, that's even by a negotiator who may never have been in a real negotiation. But today I'm going to share with you the experiences of those individuals who have been in negotiations practically all their life professionally, please, okay? Right. So these are the practical approaches to negotiation, not the theoretical one that written by books and by individuals who have never been in it. So let's start with the first. What is a good characteristic of a good what is a characteristic of a good negotiator? There's no right and wrong. There's no set ways of looking at it. And I would say, and I think you will agree, is of course the ability to communicate. A simple example. Some of you like chemistry, some like physics, some like math, some like history, some like geography, and so on and so forth. The reason most of you like, and I included, physics, math, or chemistry is because the teacher, I call it teacher this time, not the professor, knew how to communicate that subject and made it easy and fun. The one who made chemistry, biology easy and fun, you ended up being a doctor, you enjoyed it. And so the one who made physics and math easy and fun, you may become an engineer. So the ability to communication makes a big difference what you end up being, engineer or doctor, okay? Having said that, some just are gifted, some can acquire that communication skill. So a good negotiator should be able to communicate in a way that it is acceptable to all concerned, okay, in the negotiation process. So, but the second quality I'm going to highlight is maybe more than once, which most of us, you can blame me for it, is to listen. We think we listen. No, we don't. There's a big difference between listening and hearing. Hearing, you can hear a gunshot. You can hear it. Does it mean you listened to it? No, you heard it. Listening is something else. Listening is you comprehend it. It's gone under the skin, it's in the brain, it's in the mind. So please listen now to what the other side is saying. Sometimes we assume without listening what the other side is saying, and there lies the problem with argument. We assume this is what the other side must be saying, and in fact they're not, because we're not listening to them. We're just assuming this is what they're saying. So listening is a super, I cannot say super more than that, important aspect of anybody, okay? Good communication and a good listener, paramount. Another point that has come up from the great negotiator is consider, I'll repeat it twice, consider your point or your option from the other side's point of view. I'll repeat it. Consider your proposal. Option is your proposal. What you're making the proposal to the other side from what? From the other side point of view. You made a proposal. Look at it, what they're thinking about your proposal from their angle. Do you understand that? No. Do you think you understand it? Yes. How can I say that? I've never met you. Stand in judgment because I know it. I'll tell you how I know it. We think we know what the other side is trying to tell us, and it's acceptable to you. I'll give you the real example. A good, very dear friend of mine who's passed away, his name is Al Boulos. Mr. Boulos, all his life, he worked for an oil company. I think it was Mobil Oil, I think so. And all he did was to negotiate on behalf of Mobil Oil, the oil company, against negotiating on the other side with the government people around the world. And Mr. Boulos, a dear friend of mine, had retired and he was working as a consultant. So some 20 years back, I was giving the seminar, this very seminar in Houston on negotiations. And these are for industry folks from oil industry. And it was in Houston for 3 days. And Al Boulos lived in Houston. He had retired and he'd moved there and he was a consultant. So I said to him, Al, do me a favor. Listen to the story, it's important. He said, what can I do for you, Christian? He's a dear friend of mine. I said, on Wednesday, the third day, we're going to talk about negotiation. First 2 days, I'll lecture on petroleum agreements. The third day is negotiation. I would ask you to please, you come and negotiate, teach these people how to negotiate because you're the expert. He said, no problem. By the way, Mr. Boulos was also the president of the AIPN, Association of International Petroleum Negotiators, the whole world. He was the president. So he's Mr. Negotiator. Keep that in mind. Done that all his life. So he said, no problem. I'll come on Wednesday and I'll give them a one-day lecture on negotiation. I said, okay. So story is coming to an end. So I said, come early so that we can have breakfast in the morning. So he comes about 7 o'clock, I guess, 8 o'clock. We were having breakfast. And in the breakfast, he said, Christian, you know what? I said, what? On the weekend, that weekend, he said, I came from Bolivia, La Paz, Bolivia. La Paz, the capital. I said, Al, what were you doing in Bolivia? I thought you retired. He said, yeah, I'd retired. He said, this time the World Bank had asked Al Boulos, the consul, to go and represent the government of Bolivia. All his life, he was representing the oil industry, the oil company, Mobil Oil. But now he was asked to be sitting on the opposite side of negotiation and sit on the side of Bolivia, the other side, the opponent, and negotiate petroleum agreement. And guess what he said? Listen very carefully. He said to me, he said, all the life I've lived, I was putting forth arguments from my side, my point of view to the other side. But now when I was sitting on the other side, on the government of Bolivia side, every argument that I had put forth sitting on the company side had no meaning for the government side. None, zero. The same person said. He said, what looked rational and made sense to me sitting on this side, but now I'm sitting on the opposite side and the same thing had no meaning here. What does it mean? Look at your option, your proposal from the other side of point of view. So how can I accept that you say, well, I can understand what he said? No, you can't. Sitting on the other side, the whole thing might have a different meaning. So be careful. I carry this message everywhere I've been because we think we understand what the other's option is. The next point to remember is avoid believing their problem is their problem. Avoid believing their problem is their problem. Government people say, hey, that's their problem. Why should I worry about it? Company people say, that's the government problem. Why should I worry? No, sir, don't think that way because it is a marriage. Your wife comes home or your husband comes home and says, look here, I had a big problem in the office today. And what do you tell her or him? Hey, don't bother me with your problems. I've got enough of my own. Trust me, that marriage will not last more than a week. I guarantee you that. Avoid that. Because it's a marriage between the government and the oil company. You work together in collaboration. Remember that. Simple but super important. Nothing magical is going to come out of this lecture today. Nothing supernatural I'm going to share with you. Something logical and simple. That's where the effectiveness is. The simpler the logic, the more powerful it is. Keep it in your mind for as long as you live. With most powerful logic, most powerful theme, argument is the simple logic. Another one I'm told is, when you're in negotiation setting, speak for yourself and not for the other side. This could be insulting sometimes for the other side. We have a habit of saying, hey, I think you mean that. No, sir, you don't tell me what I mean. I know what I mean. I can speak for myself. You mind your business. Don't just say, you mean that? Not the other. Keep it to yourself. Let him speak for himself, okay? There's certain things have no benefit, but it can be annoying. The next point is super important. Out of 30 pages, I'm going to reduce it to maybe 10, 15 points. So don't underestimate of what I'm saying is because I'm really concentrating on a few important points. Be aware of egos and sensitivities before you commence. I repeat it. Very important lesson. Be aware of ego and sensitivities before you commence the negotiation. Every human being has an ego, other than Mother Teresa, probably. It's a human weakness. God put it in me. God had put it in you. We always carry an ego on our shoulder. We're sensitive about certain things. Be aware what the other guy ego is. How sensitive he is. Example. Look at my thumb. I can twist it. I'm not crying, am I? Is the pain? No. If I have a cut here, it becomes very sensitive, is it? And I can't just turn it like it. I'll scream with pain. That's the point. The same thumb has become sensitive because I touched on the sensitive spot, not sensitive spot. That's what happens. So the moment you touch on somebody's sensitive spot or ego, I have it, you have it, the person becomes illogical, irrational. Like this, suddenly the same thumb becomes very painful. Same thumb. Careful, we all have sensitive points. I gave you mine. If you're late, boy, that's my sense. Is it right or wrong? I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. That's the way I am. You're not going to change me. In negotiation, you're there for only 2 days or 4 days. So again, be aware that if you're going to come and see, be on time. Just as an example, we all have our sensitive points. Patience and politeness are essential. I don't have to say much. And cultivate mutual respect throughout the negotiations. Mutual respect. Some practical observations on negotiation techniques. Practical. I've skipped a few pages. There are quite a few of these. One is resolve minor points first. During the day, you're starting the negotiation in the morning. Start with resolution of what? The minor points. Why? Leave the major points in the negotiation until the end. Why? Things go speedily at the end of the negotiation. Things move faster. In the morning, you have the whole day in front of you. And you talk. At the end, 4 o'clock, everybody's tired. They want to go home. Maybe somebody has to pick up his children from school. They want to get out. You don't know. Maybe somebody has a wife waiting for him in the shopping area somewhere. You go home, you go to her, pick her up late, and it's raining outside. There's not going to be a happy wife or happy husband. I'm always careful. And the drive home is going to be very quiet. You don't want that. And when you're married, you'll know what I mean when I say it's going to be quiet drive home. 1 mile drive will feel like you've driven 25 miles. So resolve minor points first. But now I'm going to turn around. Say just the opposite. Since you might be writing. State points of no compromise early on. The big points, early. State points of no compromise early on. I'll give you an example. You can clearly say to the gentleman on the other side of the chandelier, well, please, there are certain things we cannot compromise. don't bring it up in the negotiation and waste your time and mine, because we cannot compromise those because they are not in our hand. Our hands are tied. I can't do anything about it. So why waste your time? I can't do anything about it. I'm telling you up front right now. For example, the Constitution. Does anybody or can anybody change the Constitution? No. If the Constitution says that all disputes between the two parties, the government and the company, will be resolved in the local courts in Venezuela or Iran or Korea or Australia or Ghana or Mozambique or Namibia or whatever. If that's what and then you, the company, say, no, sir, we can't be doing that because these courts are appointed by your judges, by your government. No, we can't accept that. The other side says that. We will only accept the resolution of a conflict with you based on international arbitration, based exclusively on international arbitration. So what? Now you have a choice. You cannot change the Constitution. The company cannot only want arbitration. Now there is a problem. Since nobody can change the Constitution, it's best, then I say, well, that we can't negotiate because we want arbitration. You can't accept it because your hands are tied. So why continue? Save us time. So no harm pointing out your limitations. Please do that. Maybe there's something in the Constitution that tells you don't do that. So you can't change it. Don't underestimate, do not, and underline this one when I finish. Do not underestimate the intelligence of your opponent. Please, please, please remember that. Do not underestimate the intelligence of the other guy on the opposite side. We all do that. Every single one of us does it. And I read it so you can write it. Do not underestimate the intelligence of your other side opponent. You know, how do we do it? Look at my eyes. Not even that one, little. One eye. Only at one time. What does it mean? We do that all the time. Slight wink, slight. I'm making it big so you can see my eyes. Normally, it'll be very slight, but now I have to make it big so you can see my eye here. Wink. What does that mean? When you do this, you're telling your side, your friend over here, sitting on your side, oh, this fellow, the other guy, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm smart. Look, this wink means, oh, don't pay attention to the other guy. He's a stupid fellow. What you're implying, I'm smart. Don't worry about it. No, sir. We all are guilty of that. We are underestimating. That fellow, you think is not smart, definitely has fooled you. My rule is no book. My book says this. I've not read it anywhere. An intelligent, smart person never shows his intelligence. Remember that, please. A smart, intelligent person never shows his intelligence. It's this goofy, unintelligent, the goofy guys, they show how smart they are. Smart, really smart people never show it. He lets you discover it, that he's intelligent. He doesn't show it. And when you discover it, remember, it is too late. It's too late for you. He's already sold you probably in the marketplace and you don't even know it. So keep that. I'll give you an example. It happened in my presence. Once upon a time, 200 years ago, I was a young man. You don't believe it because you see few white hair here. Look at all the wrinkles. Look at all this wrinkle, mustache all white. You say, how can this old man be ever young? You might be right. I don't think I ever was young. I've forgotten when I was young myself. So again, maybe 200 years back when I was young. I was a young engineer when I was young. And sitting around the table with other young engineers from another company here in Austin, another electric utility, because I worked at an electric utility. So all of the young engineers were talking, trying to impress each other. You're young. When you're young, you want to impress. Not at the older. Well, who am I going to impress nowadays? No. You get old, you don't impress anybody. You just feel like, okay, thank God I'm alive. Impressive when you're young. I used to act very, try to show impressive, like the unintelligent. I was just bragging. Not when you're old. You don't. The show is over. So here I was, a young man with other young engineers, and in one corner of the table, was the general manager of one of these utilities. It's in Austin, one of the big utilities that also controls all the lakes around Austin and all that good stuff that you see around all the parks around Austin. All are under him, plus power generation. Big. His name was Senator Herring. I think he probably passed away. We were sitting there quietly, listening to the young men that we were. Never said a word. And suddenly, he's kind of acting like he's asleep. No, he knows not asleep, he's acting. Suddenly he wakes up, not wake up, but he just, he wants to say something. You know what he starts with? Mr. Senator Herring, I'm just a country boy. That was the first sentence. I'll never forget that. Here we were young people acting like, boy, we have got this degree and we got that, we've done this and we done. Here was the senator. I'm just a country boy. Country boy means I'm not uneducated. I live on a ranch. I can just run around behind the cows. I don't know anything. I just on the countryside. No. I'm just a basic guy. Why is he doing that? Because somebody like me, a fool like me, would say, hey, he said he's a country boy. He must be a country boy. He just is an ignorant guy. No. He's acting like a country boy. Because underneath that country boy was a super smart guy. He made us believe, young people, that they're smarter than he is. In fact, he could have sold each one of them, and he probably did. So watch it for these people who act unintelligently. They are the ones you have to look for, okay? Do not underestimate the other side. Intelligence. Control emotions as far as possible. Sometimes in emotions, we say things we really don't mean, and once you've said it, it cannot be unsaid. What is done cannot be undone. Always look for alternatives. Alternative solutions. If you make a proposal and it's reached a dead end, find another way to handle it. Find another solution. Come up with new ideas. The next one is a tricky one. Careful, very careful. It is called the take it, inverted commas, or leave it, take it or leave it. Careful, do it when you know what you're doing. That is, what does that mean? Do that only when you know what you're doing. Take it or leave, meaning what? If you're making a proposal to the other side and they're not understanding, they're not accepting, you're making another proposal, they're not accepting it, you made a third proposal, they're not accepting, you made a fourth proposal. You're trying every way possible to give them so many different ideas and proposals, and they reject every one of them without even giving a good reason. You have no reason. You have no choice. You can use this as a last resort. You can just say, hey, Johnny, this is it. I've given you enough proposals and you're rejecting each and every one. Either you take it or I'm leaving. So you got to do it with some pizzazz, some style. Hey, Johnny. Oh, whatever, Johnny, just today. Hey, you, whatever you want to, look, open up. I'm trying and giving ideas and ideas. All you said is, no. I don't think I can take it anymore. So I'm telling you, last warning, either you take what I'm telling you or I'm going out of here in the next moment. The other guys knows you've reached your end. But why did I say be careful if you use it? You can't say, hey, Johnny, you know what? I've said to you many times, and you don't like what I'm saying, so you can, you can leave it, you can take it. No, that will not work. You can't, well, Johnny, I was trying to bluff you and take it as something that, no. Do it like the way I said it. Hey, Joe, enough of you. We can't put up with anymore. Now, he knows that this is it. You've drawn the line. It's how you say it more than what you are saying. Some have it, some don't. Do it only when you think you have it, the capacity to do it. Okay. Summarize. Is it a good idea to ask question of the other side or not a good idea? That is the question. Is it no? Typically, these are the things I would like to be in person talking to you and say, hey, what do you think, John? What do you think, Bob? What do you think, Bill? In the class, the students. Is good or not a good idea? The professional negotiators tell you it is a good idea to ask questions of the other side. Don't go in and say, here are my 20 questions. No, that is not what I'm saying. Ask a few questions and then a few more, see how it's going. You got to feel it. We're going to read off the note. The average negotiator will only devote 10% of the time for questions. The skilled negotiator, a good one, devotes 20%. In other words, more questions. 10 and 20 is just relative. Why? Questions give you control over the negotiations. If you think you're losing control of the setting where negotiation is happening, you ask the question of the other side, now what? You're in control. Now the other fellow is answering to your question. Remember, now he's answering your question while you're sitting listening to him. You may find something wrong with his answers. You're in control. Don't disagree directly. Oh, no. It's not in these notes, but I always say that. It says, never disagree directly. I've just said that, but what I'm going to tell you next is how should you address that if you can't disagree directly? That's my idea now. Some of Mr. Boulos' ideas. If I were to ask you which is the most
powerful word in the English dictionary? Wish you could be answering that directly to me. Which is the most powerful word in the English dictionary? I have heard all kinds of answers in response to my question. I'll tell you what I think. Not that it's right or wrong, it's just my opinion. The word is but. B-U-T, one T, but. To me, this is the most powerful word in the English dictionary. Why do I say that? Because to me, what it means is everything I said before the but, forget it. Only remember what I said after the but. You say, well, I agree here, they did this, but, and then you say what you want to say. You did not disagree. You said, I agree with this you're saying, not a direct disagree. When you say but, that means forget everything I've said. Only remember what I'm saying after the but. So the but negates, washes away everything before it, what was said or transpired. Only remember what has been said after the word but. So according to my theory, but is a very, very powerful and a useful word, by the way, especially in negotiation. I'm going to say this jokingly, that if you go to a negotiation and somebody on the other side is using the word but all the time, you know he's taken my course on negotiations, obviously. But in that case, if you're one of those guys using but all the time, I'll give you a substitute word also. Use the word however, comma. Always put a comma before the but, English language, grammar, put a comma after the however. So same thing. However has the same impact that the but has in my story. You say, I agree, period. However, comma, and you say your story now. That means forget everything I said before the however. Now remember whatever I said after the however. How is that for a tricky way to not have to directly confront somebody, okay? That's a nice, polite way to disagree. Always, I'm getting to the last point here, one or two, maybe the last point. Clarity is essential. So every now and then, every few minutes, pause and go over in summary short. Think that you have agreed to summarize everything that was transpired in the last 30, 40 minutes. So everybody is on the same page, so to speak. Everybody is talking about the same thing. The summary tells them that, yes, we agree with what you have been talking about. So always try to summarize each stage of the negotiation process for the purpose of clarity. So there is no misunderstanding at the end. Simple thoughts, nothing earth-shattering, nothing fell from the sky here. But these are the thoughts that make a difference, folks. Question. Where did I start the lecture the first day of part 1? I used one word. I used one word. And I'm going to use the same word when I end the lecture now. That completes. You come to complete circle. What is the one word that I use? It's in your notes. First thing in this lecture or this course. That was what? Agreement is a marriage based on trust. Trust is the word that I emphasized. And trust is the word with which I end. Do you see the word trust somewhere written here? Finally, trust is the ultimate key to success in negotiation. Trust. The rest is good lectures, techniques, strategies, style. All they have no meaning. Whether you use this strategy or you listen to me here and do this. No, have no meaning unless you have trust in the other side. No trust will never get you very far in life. Please remember that. So I start the course with the word trust and I end with the word trust. I hope I have a chance to talk to you again after the exams on the 6th of May, I believe it is, and see what I have to say. Of course, there are some subjects such as arbitration. We may talk about arbitration. We may talk about international disputes, boundary disputes between nations, how nations settle their disputes, how companies settle their disputes. We only talk about negotiation, but never what if negotiations fail, what do we do? Okay. How to territorial between nations, there's overlapping of territory. We've got some examples to talk about between Norway and UK, Mexico and America, Australia and East Timor that goes into nation, several Cameroon and Nigeria. So we can talk about that and so on. There's no limit to what we can talk about, okay? Enjoy yourself. Don't work too hard. Take it easy and relax, please. Relax, okay? Certainly I've enjoyed talking to you guys. I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you and bye-bye.